Well, this Thursday brought more news from the Obama-run Justice Department.
Big brother.
Dennis Hastert, the former Speaker of the House, the longest-serving Republican Speaker in history, was indicted by the FBI today. Now, let's get one thing straight. I hate Denny Hastert, the globalist, NSA, tyranny-supporting frontman. And I remember interviewing investigative journalist Wayne Madsen, who's on the show tomorrow, the Friday radio show, many times, where he said that Dennis Hastert reportedly was being blackmailed for sexual improprieties with some of the senior members of the high school wrestling team that he brought to the championship level. And if one reads the indictment, it looks like that's exactly what was going on. He paid $1.5 million, reportedly, allegedly, of $3+ million he promised to someone to cover up a impropriety that he had committed. Now, let's be clear. I don't like Dennis Hastert. I don't like the Republican leadership. It was the Republican leadership that just went along with the TPP selling out our sovereignty in the Senate. But they don't have the votes in the House. And guess who Mr. Hastert is closely associated with and who was his underling? Speaker of the House, John Boehner. This is a major shot across the bow of the Republican leadership to get in line and do whatever Obama says, or they'll be indicted. These guys weren't led into positions of power unless they were compromised. That's why Mr. Hastert was taken from nowhere and basically put in the speakership only after a few years in the House of Representatives. Unheard of, because he was incredibly compromised. But there's a whole other issue here, not just blackmail. Undoubtedly, this White House is the most corrupt I've ever seen. He makes Nixon look like an angel, and Nixon was a tyrant. They've been going after Rick Perry for state vetoes that are totally legal. I don't like Rick Perry. It's just a fact. They put Dinesh D'Souza, the filmmaker, in prison. He's still there now. They're going after all these Republican governors. They're indicting people left and right. When they ran Fast and Furious, they ran Benghazi. Hillary gets tens of millions of dollars a year for the Clinton Foundation from foreign dictators so that the State Department would sign off on illegal arms shipments. This is like Satan indicting one of his lower demons, Slimer. This is like the top mob boss, John Gotti, sitting as the judge over one of his street thugs that was caught shaking down an old lady. It's the hypocrisy. I mean, here's a parallel, an allegory, an example. I am for the death penalty biologically. I believe at a tribal level, if the tribe caught some guy killing a kid or killing a woman or something, there was 10 witnesses, you stone him to death, you throw him off a cliff, you burn him, you strangle him, you kill him. But you can't trust a corrupt government that's been proven to be framing people, as the DNA is showing, to carry out the death penalty. So I'm against the death penalty because you can't trust the system to implement it. And it's the same thing here. We have a one-sided reign of terror by the Democratic Party that is attempting a total takeover of society right now. And the Republicans, when they're in power, leave the Democrats alone. It's sick. I mean, the Democrats, even when the Republicans do everything they want and are totally intimidated, the Democrats continue this reign of terror. I mean, I think about all the people this Justice Department is indicting. And they got rid of Holder because of his corruption with the IRS probe, and Fast and Furious had put this new minion in as the Attorney General. And so the reign of terror in Obama's last year and a half is starting. And if we don't get even a two-party system going in this country, we're in trouble. We need two parties to keep each other in check, not the Democrats running roughshod like the Nazi Party or something taking over. One part of me loves to see the disgusting colon on two legs that is Hastert in trouble. But my intellectual side goes, no, this is part of an unfair persecution of somebody who, compared to the rest of them, quite frankly, is nothing. I mean, look at Penn State. That's a giant pedophile ring, the whole thing.
All
and
right,
they burned
folks.
one guy. And
That's part of a report I shot downtown last night, went over to a friend's house and put that report up. We're live on this Friday, 29th edition. Stay with us. It's a huge transmission straight ahead. I'm Alex Jones. First off today, we're going to cover the indictment that broke after the broadcast in the afternoon yesterday of the longest-serving Republican Speaker of the House, Dennis Hastert. Dennis Hastert was a horrible neocon rhino, an open borders promoting, high tax promoting, Patriot Act police state promoting blob. And I remember many times having Wayne Madsen on the broadcast, formerly with the National Security Agency. I remember having him on many, many times and him saying that Dennis Hastert was compromised, Dennis Hastert was blackmailed, and that Dennis Hastert basically molested wrestlers when he was a high school wrestling coach. Now, a lot of guests get up on air and say things like that. I'll kick them off the show or I'll delay them. I'll sit there and basically erase on live radio what they're saying. I don't do that very often, but if something isn't already substantiated or if I haven't documented it myself, I don't put that out. But Madsen is an investigative journalist. He went and spent, I don't know, since Obama's been in office and before, probably overall 6-8 months that I know of inside Chicago, sniffing around, substantiating that Obama goes to bathhouses and has homosexual sex, substantiating that the mayor there does that as well from his sources, substantiating that Hastert's involved in all sorts of activities, reportedly. And this is why they put them all basically in power. And it's why they burned the governor, who was just in with the whole group in basic mafia activity, was to send a message to Obama and everybody else, you'll do exactly what you're told when you're told. So I'm not sad that Mr. Hastert has been indicted, and I've read the indictment, and he did what all these idiots do. He lied to the government, basically under oath. There's a federal law. When you're talking to the FBI, it's basically under oath. I don't think it's constitutional, but regardless, he said the money he was taking out was for him. How about talk to the hand? How about you guys want to cook something up? Go do it on your own. I'm not talking to you. But Hastert reportedly, allegedly lied to the FBI about what was going on, and the $3 million he was going to pay this individual, he paid him $1.5 million, reportedly, in $10,000 or under $10,000 increments, trying to hide it. As if the government doesn't notice someone trying to take out under $10,000. Christmas has come up before, and I'm handing out bonuses at the office and then to friends and family. And I'll say, with 50-something employees and family and everything, I'll say, go get, $12,000 out of the company bank. Now that people say to me, well, go under that. I go, it's after tax money. We're not hiding it. But see, this is the whole mindset of what it's like to live under tyranny, where people think normal activity is illegal. So this whole thing is bigger than Dennis Hastert. And if you want to know why this is happening now, hands down, I don't know what Wayne Madsen's going to say when he comes on, but he really knows his stuff, formerly with the National Security Agency. If you're watching C-SPAN and watching a national security hearing, you'll almost always see him in the audience. You'll see him in the audience at the National Press Club. He really knows his stuff. I've interviewed 3 or 4 people that he put me in contact with that end up dead, like the D.C. madam. I mean, the stuff he's onto is not child's play. It's real. This is big boy pants stuff here on this radio show. We go where nobody else dares to go because it's our duty to do it. We're not showing off, and I've said it's not fun. So he's joining us at the bottom of the hour, and there's just a cornucopia of other important news, obviously, but we have the indictment right here. Give you a document cam shot of that or put it on screen. And the Washington Post asked the big question. They say, What is the impropriety that he supposedly admitted to, that he'd wronged someone, that he was going to pay them $3 million? Well, it has to do, the indictment says, with his time from 81 to 2007. And it gets into his time as a wrestling coach. Now, I'm not saying he's guilty of all this, but you don't get to that level of power now of Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid and Dennis Hastert and John Boehner and Mitch McConnell unless they've got skeletons in the closet that can destroy them at any time. In the film adaptation of Frank Herbert's Dune, that's not very good compared to the book, Baron Harkonnen adds heart plugs to people where he can just pull a plug out like the top of a carton of milk, and it opens up the side of your heart and all your blood sprays out against the wall. And that's basically what all these politicians have, is political heart plugs. So that anytime they want, they can just stick the Federal Bureau of Investigation in there that knows full well the big banks launder almost all the drug money, run the aircraft, run the child sex slave rings, the snuff films, all of it. It even comes out in the news that, DynCorp is involved in giant child kidnapping rings. Nobody gets in trouble for kids in dungeons. They only burned Denny Hastert to send a message right now to Boehner and to McConnell and to the Democrats, not just Republicans. You get in line. We don't care if polls are 87 to 90% against TPP, global treaty. We don't care how tyrannical it is. We don't care. You do what you're told, and then even when you're voted out of office, we're going to go ahead and indict you anyways. They're running scared. We have a captured, blackmailed, intimidated government. And folks, we got people like Colonel Schaefer, who ran the anti-bin Laden operation that could have killed him twice, and the White House ordered him to stand down. He simply complained to the Defense Committee in the House, the Armed Services Committee, and they began the move to indict him with the FBI for $60-something in phone bills, saying he couldn't call his wife as a colonel, saying he'd be late to dinner when he got back to the U.S., and that it was stealing to use his phone to what was the investigation? It said he called, I think it was a Jiffy Lube or something. He called a lube place to have his car to set up an appointment. He called his wife. Of course, anybody knows that an officer in the U.S. military can call their wife on their phone. This is what they'll come after you for. They will indict a ham sandwich, as it was once famously said. I forget by who. You guys Google who said you can indict a ham sandwich. I think it was Jim Garrison. But this is what we're dealing with here, is crazy town. And by the way, if you don't have any corruption in your background, they'll make it up. Or they'll call up your wife and harass her and threaten to attack your family until your wife cracks up. That was New York State Chief Judge Saul Watchler, was famously quoted by Tom Wolfe in The Bonfire of the Vanities that a grand jury would indict a ham sandwich if that's what you wanted. I guess it was repeated by Jim Garrison. So when I put out that alert video last night, a minority of people were saying, why are you defending Dennis Hastert? Why are you being partisan? I'm not being partisan. I'm telling it like it is. I've been watching politics closely for 25 years. I've been on air for 20, immersed in it. And they are targeting Republicans, this Democratic Party, and journalists and their own people, and free speech and whistleblowers at an exponential level, about 3 times what it's ever been before. and that's basically a quote by Jonathan Turley, constitutional lawyer and a big liberal, that Obama is engaged in basically triple